Most people know Texas for oil. A few know it for cattle. Almost nobody knows it for the gemstones hiding in the ground under both. And not just one type of gem in one corner of the state. 12 distinct spots are scattered from the hill country to the Chihuahuan Desert, where the earth is holding something that, if you knew where to look, you could reach down and pick up with your own hands. The state gemstone of Texas is blue topaz. That alone is a fact most Texans couldn't tell you. But blue topaz is just the beginning. This is 12 secret Texas spots hiding precious gemstones. Spot 12, Mineral Wells Fossil Park, the free dig nobody talks about. Most fee dig sites in this country will charge you anywhere from $20 to $100 before you touch a single piece of dirt. Mineral Wells Fossil Park charges nothing. Zero. You show up, you dig, and you keep whatever you find, and the material you are digging through is 300 million years old. The park sits on what used to be a gravel pit outside Mineral Wells, Texas, about 80 miles southwest of Dallas. The city acquired the site in 2005 and opened it to the public, which sounds like a small administrative decision until you understand what is actually embedded in the ground there. The limestone exposed at Mineral Wells dates to the Pennsylvanian period, a time when the entire region was covered by a warm, shallow tropical sea. What that sea left behind, preserved in the rock for 300 million years, is a dense record of ancient marine life. Crinoids, sea lilies, and technically animals despite the name, are the most common find. Their stem segments, called Indian beads, are disc-shaped and often carry a natural hole through the center, like something a craftsman spent time on. They were not made. The earth did that. Visitors also regularly find brachiopods, bryozoans, echinoids, and if you are patient and know what the matrix looks like, fragments of trilobites. There are even primitive shark teeth embedded in the limestone, not the recognizable triangular teeth of modern sharks, but the spiny geometric precursors that tell you the water was deep and alive with creatures we do not have casual names for. No tools are required beyond a small trowel and a bag for specimens. You take what you find. The park is open during daylight hours and access is free. The only rule is surface collecting only. No blasting, no heavy equipment, nothing that moves serious earth. Just you, a trowel, and the floor of an ocean that has not existed for 300 million years. Spot 11, Mason County, where the state gemstone actually lives. Blue topaz is the official state gemstone of Texas. That is the official designation, on the books since 1969. What most people do not know, what most Texans do not know, is where you actually go to find it. Mason County, population just over 4,000, sits in the heart of the Texas Hill Country, inside the Llano uplift, a dome of ancient Precambrian granite, pushed up through younger rock layers roughly 1.5 billion years ago. That granite is the key. Topaz forms in pockets within granite and rhyolite, and the specific chemistry of the Llano uplift's volcanic rock produces crystals that occur nowhere else in Texas. Most topaz anywhere in the world is colorless. To get the blue color you see in jewelry, it requires heat treatment or irradiation after the fact. In Mason County, natural blue topaz occurs in the ground. That is not a marketing claim. That is rare anywhere on the planet. Ranches in the area, including Sequest Ranch, which has been opening its land to collectors since the 1970s, allow paying visitors to walk the stream beds in granite outcroppings, looking for crystals in the gravel. The pieces are pale, water-worn, and angular in a way that separates them from the surrounding rock, if you know what you are looking for. Most crystals recovered are thumbnail-sized or smaller, but every season, someone pulls out a piece large enough to facet and cut into something worth setting. The town of Mason calls itself the Gem of the Hills. For once, that is not tourism copy. That is the geology talking. If you have driven through Mason County on your way to Fredericksburg or Kerrville and never stopped, you have passed within a few miles of the state gemstone sitting in the gravel of a stream bed, waiting for someone who knew to look. Spot 10, Llano County, Highway 16, the rock found nowhere else on Earth. This one is not topaz. It isn't even a traditional gemstone, but it might be the single most geologically unique thing in the entire state, and you can find it by pulling over on the side of a highway. A Llanite is a porphyritic rhyolite found only in Llano County, Texas. Not rare by Texas standards, not rare by American standards. Found only here, on this specific patch of ground, on this planet. The name comes from Llano. This was its discovery location, and it is its only known occurrence in the world. What makes Llanite visually arresting is the blue quartz phenocrysts, crystals of blue quartz suspended in a ground mass of pink feldspar and dark minerals. Blue quartz is unusual. The color comes from trace amounts of titanium and is genuinely rare in nature. When you polish a slab of Llanite, the blue crystals catch light against the pink and black matrix in a way that looks designed rather than grown. It looks like someone made a decision. The Earth made no such decision. It grew this way, in this place, in a geochemical environment that has never been replicated anywhere else on the surface of the planet. Geologists have identified 241 distinct rocks and minerals in Llano County. Most mountain ranges cannot claim that kind of inventory. The most accessible collecting spot for Llanite is along Texas Highway 16, north of Llano, near Baby Head Cemetery, where road cuts through the Llanite outcrop have been shedding material for decades. Chunks weather out of the hillside and land on the road shoulder. You do not need a permit. You do not need a guide. You pull over, you look at the cut in the hill, and there is a rock that exists in this exact spot, and nowhere else on Earth, sitting in the gravel, waiting for someone who knows what they are looking at. Spot 9, Bedias, Grimes County, ancient space glass in a cotton field. 34 million years ago, something large enough to excavate what is now the Chesapeake Bay hit the Earth off what is today the mid-Atlantic coast. The energy from that impact was enough to vaporize bedrock, superheat the atmosphere, and fling molten material thousands of miles in every direction. Some of that material sailed across the sky and landed in what is now East Texas. It cooled into glass on the way down. That glass is called Bediasite. It is a tektite, natural glass formed by meteorite impact, and it takes its name from the small town of Bedias in Grimes County, Texas, where geologist Virgil Barnes first identified the specimens in 1936. The Bediasite strewn field covers a narrow zone across east-central Texas, in Grimes, Leon, Madison, and Walker counties. That is the full extent of it. You will not find Bediasites in another state. You will not find them in another country. This is where they landed, and this is where they stayed. The pieces are dark brown to black, slightly translucent when held up to light, and they carry the aerodynamic shapes of material that was once moving through the air at tremendous speed. Splash forms, spheres, teardrops, dumbbells, and discs are all produced by the physics of molten rock cooling as it falls. A piece of Bediasite that fits in your palm is a 34-million-year-old artifact of a collision between a rock from space and the surface of the Earth. The Chesapeake Bay is the crater. East Texas is where the debris field came to rest. Finding them requires patience and landowner permission. The strewn field sits mostly on private agricultural land, and the best exposures appear in plowed fields after rain has cleaned the surface. Specimens have become scarcer as decades of collecting have worked through the surface material, but they are still being found. Grimes County is still producing them. And if you are the kind of person who thinks glass formed by an asteroid impact, found only in a specific strip of East Texas, is worth a county road drive, That is exactly the kind of thinking that leads to interesting pockets. Spot 8. Balmorhea, Reeves County. Blue agate nobody knew to look for. The Trans-Pecos region of West Texas does not look like gem country. It looks like geology doing its best impression of somewhere nobody would go on purpose. Vast stretches of basin and range, alkaline flats, creosote, and sotol, not the landscape that announces itself. That is exactly why Balmorhea blue agate is still not on most people's radar. Balmorhea agate, sometimes called Texas blue agate or gray-blue chalcedony depending on who is describing it, comes from the volcanic rock formations in Reeves County, in the same Trans-Pecos volcanic province that produces agates across the whole western portion of the state. What separates Balmorhea material is the color, a cool gray-blue tone that, when sliced and polished, has the translucency that collectors actually pay for it shows. Chalcedony gets its color from trace mineral inclusions, and the particular chemistry of Reeves County's volcanic history produces this specific shade with enough consistency that regional collectors can identify it on site. The same ground also yields selenite, crystalline gypsum, that grows in large, transparent plates and blade-like formations that need no cutting or polishing to show what they are. The crystals are naturally clear and intersecting, growing in formations that look more architectural than mineral. Celestite, strontium sulfate ranging from pale blue to colorless, also occurs in the area in rounded masses and crystalline pockets. None of these require a tour guide. Reeves County road cuts and public parcels have been producing specimens for decades among collectors who found the place and kept quiet about it. The challenge is access. Most of the productive terrain is private, but the Bureau of Land Management has cataloged what is available on federal land in the region, and what is in those parcels is worth a long drive through a landscape that most people pass through with the windows up. Spot 7. Walker Ranch, West Texas. More than 60 types of agate. West Texas has more varieties of agate than most people have names for. Walker Ranch is one of the fee access sites in the region that lets the public experience that variety directly. And 60 types of agate is not hyperbole. That is the inventory. Agate is chalcedony, microcrystalline quartz, with banding, color, or inclusions that give each piece its particular character. But that umbrella term covers an enormous range. There is plume agate, where manganese or iron oxide has grown through the silica in three-dimensional feather or spray formations. There is moss agate, where dendritic minerals have spread through the material, like vegetation pressed between glass. Bouquet agate, pom-pom agate, polka dot agate. Each is produced by slightly different mineral chemistry in slightly different volcanic environments. Walker Ranch sits in terrain that produced all of them. The volcanic province that created this material is roughly 40 million years old. When those ancient volcanoes buried the landscape under hundreds of feet of lava, silica-rich fluids worked into cavities in the cooling rock and began the slow crystallization process. Different mineral introductions at different stages created the layered, patterned, included material that collectors still pull from that ground today. For a daily fee, Walker Ranch allows visitors to collect. What they find depends entirely on how much ground they cover and how well they learn to read the landscape. Raw agate in the field is unremarkable, dull gray or brown, nothing that announces itself. The transformation happens when you cut it. Slice a piece in half, and the interior can be almost anything. That is not a promise. That is the gamble. And it is the same gamble that has been bringing collectors out here for decades. Spot 6, Stillwell Ranch, Brewster County, 22,000 acres of hidden material. The numbers at Stillwell Ranch are almost unreasonable. It covers 22,000 acres north of Big Bend National Park, in the most geologically varied terrain in the state of Texas. Rockhounds have been making the drive out here for generations. The reason has not changed. The material is diverse, the land is enormous, and access has historically been open to the public for a modest fee. Stillwell Ranch produces agate, moss, and plume primarily, but also jasper, petrified wood, chalcedony, and flint. That range is a direct function of the geology. The ranch spans multiple rock formations of different ages and compositions, each contributing different material to the collecting landscape. Cretaceous age sediments contain fossils and silicified material. The volcanic intrusions and lava flows add the agate-bearing zones. The sheer acreage means that different parts of the ranch produce different things, and collectors who return multiple times come back with different finds each time. The drive to Marathon, Texas, the nearest town, takes most people from something they recognize into something that looks like it belongs on a different continent. That is the Trans-Pecos. Long, flat stretches, volcanic mountain ranges rising without warning, sky that goes further than feels comfortable. Most people do not make that drive unless they have a reason. The collectors who know Stillwell Ranch have their reason. It is 22,000 acres of ground that has been generously producing material since before most of them were born. Spot 5. Lake Livingston Area, Trinity County. The state rock is hiding in plain sight. Texas has a state stone. It is not a gemstone. It is not topaz or diamond or agate. It is petrified palmwood, designated the official state stone in 1969. And the best place in the state to find it is in the creek beds and forest floors of East Texas, specifically around the Lake Livingston area in Trinity County, which most people drive through without stopping once in their lives. Petrified palmwood forms when ancient palm trees are buried by sediment and slowly replaced, cell by cell over millions of years, by silica, the same mineral that makes agate and quartz. What results is a piece of wood that has become rock. The original grain structure, the cellular patterns, the woody texture, all preserved exactly as they were, but composed entirely of stone. The Texas variety is mostly Eocene age material, roughly 40 to 50 million years old, from the Catahoula Formation. It comes in colors ranging from tan and brown to rusty red and occasionally yellow, and when cut and polished, the cellular structure of the ancient palm is still perfectly visible inside. The Lake Livingston area produces petrified palmwood in lakeshore gravels and surrounding creek beds. Bedias, a small community in Grimes County to the south, the same region that produces Bediasites, is close enough that both material types can sometimes be found within miles of each other in the same plowed agricultural and forest terrain. You do not need special equipment. You need to learn what you are looking at in a gravel bar, where the weight and texture of petrified wood feels different from ordinary river rock the moment it is in your hand. The material is there. It has been there for 40 million years. Most people walk straight past it. Spot 4. Woodward Ranch, Alpine, the only place on Earth for red plume. 16 miles south of Alpine, on 3,000 acres in the Chihuahuan Desert, there is an agate deposit that produces a variety of material found nowhere else in the world. Red plume agate. The name describes exactly what it looks like. Deep red plume formations, like miniature fern fronds, or feathers, or something between the two, suspended in translucent chalcedony. Woodward Ranch is its only confirmed source on the planet. You cannot buy this material from anywhere else and be certain it came from the ground it claims. The formation at Woodward is the formation. That is the full extent of where red plume agate exists. But red plume is only the beginning. Tommy Woodward has documented over 60 distinct varieties and colors of agate coming from this property. The volcanic formation that created it, buried under more than 750 feet of lava more than 40 million years ago, was a chemically complex environment. Different pockets produce different inclusions. The manganese and iron that create plume patterns, the silica gel flows that built the translucency, and the trace minerals that drive the color variations. Cutting into a piece of Woodward agate for the first time is, to collectors who understand what they are looking at, something close to an event. The ranch is a private fee dig operation. High-clearance vehicles are recommended for reaching the collecting areas. The ranch closes briefly during deer hunting season in late November. The rest of the year, for a daily collecting fee, you can dig in material that has made Woodward Ranch known among serious rockhounds across the country, material that exists in exactly one place on the surface of this planet and has been waiting 40 million years for someone to notice. Spot 3. Terlingua, Brewster County, a mineral named after the town. Terlingua, Texas has its own mineral. Not a mineral merely found there, but a mineral named for it, first identified there, and since found in only a handful of other places in the world. Terlingua is a mercury oxychloride mineral that forms as a secondary alteration product in mercury ore deposits. Terlingua was once one of the most productive mercury mining districts in the United States. From the 1880s through the mid-20th century, the Chisos Mining Company and other operations pulled cinnabar, mercury sulfide, a vivid red ore, from the ground around Terlingua in quantities that made the region geologically significant. When the ore played out and the workers left, what remained in the ground was a mineral record that scientists and collectors have been studying ever since. Cinnabar itself is striking. The color, a vivid red to vermilion, is produced by the sulfur-mercury bond and is unlike almost any other mineral in nature. Specimens of cinnabar and matrix are genuinely beautiful objects, and the Terlingua district produced pieces that ended up in museum collections. Terlingua, the mineral that bears the town's name, is pale yellow-green, typically microscopic, and far less dramatic, but the fact of its naming is the point. A community of a few hundred people in the Big Bend region of Texas has a mineral named after it. The geology here did not need the help. Terlingua sits sandwiched between Big Bend Ranch State Park to the west and Big Bend National Park to the east, which limits legal collecting to specific areas outside park boundaries. But the ground around the historic mining district contains aragonite crystals, fluorite, calcite formations, pom-pom agates, and chalcedony types that collectors have documented for well over a century. The town may be mostly ruins. The ground around it is not. Spot 2. Palo Duro Canyon area, the Grand Canyon of Texas, is also a gem site. Palo Duro Canyon is the second largest canyon system in the United States, 120 miles long, 20 miles wide, and up to 800 feet deep in places. Most visitors come for the colors, the banded orange, red, brown, yellow, and white sedimentary layers exposed by millions of years of erosion by the Prairie Dog Town fork of the Red River. What most visitors do not notice is what those layers contain. The canyon exposes 4 distinct geological formations, representing more than 240 million years of deposition. The Topaz Formation, the most vivid layer, the one with the purples and yellows, produces jasper, petrified wood, and chalcedony. The Trujillo Formation above it contains agatized wood, ancient plant material replaced with silica as it was buried, producing petrified wood with the translucency and color banding of agate. The uppermost layers contain mineralized wood and septarian concretions, those remarkable oval stones that crack as they dry and reveal calcite-filled veins arranged like maps inside. The Quartermaster Formation holds gypsum and alabaster, the massive variety of gypsum that was quarried for plaster and building material before the canyon became a park. Collecting inside Palo Duro Canyon State Park itself is not permitted. Texas state parks prohibit the removal of any natural material. But the terrain surrounding the canyon, on BLM parcels and private land where access can be arranged, carries the same geological formations. The canyon is the most visible expression of a rock record that extends in every direction past its boundaries. The material that eroded out of those walls over millions of years is still moving through the landscape, still turning up in road cuts and creek beds, still waiting for the person who looked down instead of up. Spot 1. Big Bend Ranch State Park, the most geologically complex ground in Texas. Big Bend Ranch State Park is the largest state park in Texas. 311,000 acres of Chihuahuan desert, volcanic mountain ranges, river canyons, and geological formations representing some of the most layered rock history in the American Southwest. And unlike its neighbor, Big Bend National Park, where collecting is prohibited, personal use collecting is permitted here with a state permit. The geology of Big Bend Ranch does not lend itself to simple summary. Ancient Precambrian metamorphic basement rocks underlie the region. On top of those are Cretaceous marine sediments, limestones full of ammonites, marine reptile fragments, and shark teeth, deposited when the Cretaceous seaway covered this part of North America. Then Trans-Pecos volcanism began with massive calderas, lava flows, ash falls, and the volcanic chemistry that produces agates, jaspers, and chalcedones, for which West Texas is known to every collector who has ever been here. The Bofasillos Mountains in the western portion of the park are the product of that volcanic activity. Collectors who access those areas find agate, jasper, chalcedony, quartz crystals, and occasionally fluorescent minerals that respond to ultraviolet light in colors that have nothing to do with treatment or enhancement, just chemistry in a volcanic rock that has been sitting in the ground for tens of millions of years. The park also runs along the Rio Grande, where river gravels have been tumbling and polishing material from multiple geological sources for longer than there have been people in the region to notice. To collect at Big Bend Ranch, you need the Texas Parks and Wildlife Personal Use Collecting Permit, a small annual fee available online. The rules are specific, personal use only, no power tools, no commercial collecting, nothing removed from formations or features. What you can carry out within those rules, over a full day in 311,000 acres of this geology, is potentially extraordinary. Most Texas residents have never been to Big Bend Ranch State Park. Most people who have been there did not look down. That gap between what is there and what people know is there, that gap is the whole point. The ground does not announce itself. It never has. It just holds what it holds and waits. So those are 12 spots in Texas where the ground is holding something most people never think to look for. From 300-million-year-old sea creatures in a free public park outside Dallas, to ancient space glass in a Grimes County cotton field, to a mineral named after a nearly abandoned mining town in the Big Bend Desert, to a type of agate that exists in exactly one place on this planet. Texas is the second largest state in the country. The geological variety that comes with that scale is almost unfair. Hill country granite that has been at the surface for 1.5 billion years. Volcanic deposits across the Trans-Pecos, still producing gem-quality material. Cretaceous marine sediments sitting in canyon walls that collectors have barely touched. Before you go digging anything up, check land ownership before you put a trowel in the ground. Most of the productive terrain in Texas is private, and private means you need permission. Bureau of Land Management, land and state parks with collecting permits are the places to start when you do not have a landowner contact. Texas Parks and Wildlife and the Bureau of Land Management have clear, publicly available rules, and they are worth reading before you drive 5 hours into the desert and find out you are standing on someone's ranch. Rockhound clubs operate in nearly every major Texas city, including Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, and Houston. Those communities have been mapping this state for decades. They know where the material is. Most of them will tell you if you ask. Hit the like button if this gave you a reason to look at a Texas road cut differently, and subscribe so you do not miss the next one. There is a lot more ground to cover. In Texas, that statement is not a figure of speech.